study did a very preliminary look at potential impacts to parking. It assumed that we would maintain the existing on-street parking on these corridors where possible. For the most part, that's possible, except at specific locations where you might have a stop. And the study also assumed that we would be using existing bus stop locations for most of the streetcar stops, which further limits the number of existing parking spaces that would have to be removed to create a station location. So I'm looking at Payne Avenue. I'm sorry, I just had it. It looks like a total of about 30, 34 parking spaces might potentially be lost along the length of Payne Avenue from what we're calling the edge of downtown to the northern edge at Maryland. Again, that's very preliminary based on existing conditions and looking at aerial photos. Once you get into design, you'd be able to do more detail, but that is further down the line. And I think that those are, we've certainly heard that is heard loud and clear that it's a major concern, particularly for business owners, and we would want that addressed.
Further comments or questions? Are we prepared? I remind again, we can't take any testimony from the audience.
Can I ask you to ask the audience a question?
No, I'm sorry, we can't take any comment.
Can't ask the audience a question?
No. We can't take any testimony from the audience at these meetings. The public hearing is where you have the opportunity. Okay? All right. Commissioner Naker.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I feel like I would be remiss if I didn't make another motion since I do feel strongly about it. So, and again, I think we need to give the feasibility study credit for what it's shown us. I don't think, a study is just so as to move on to another study, and I think we've seen a lot from this feasibility study. I mean, I'm not surprised that we identified where streetcar would work best, and we found some lines that it would work best on, but I think at the same time we found out that there's a lot of concerns, and I'm hearing concerns even from you, my fellow commissioners, and so the question is whether we do want to know more, but do we want to know more at a cost of another 2 years of staff time and who knows how many hundreds of thousands of dollars, and then decide that this isn't really something we want to do, or do we want to try to get as much information as possible to help us make that decision before investing more time and money. So I guess I would move, and I'm really not good at wordsmithing on the spot, but to the first part of the resolution to stay as it is, approving the long-term network, which I think shows our support for the idea of streetcars in general and where they would be. And then in the second part, authorizing staff, and I know this sounds like even more studying of the study, but to figure out what it would entail to answer the key questions that we have, to detail out what those key questions are that the next study would actually answer, because I don't really see them there right now that reflect what the issues are that were raised. So to elucidate what those questions are, and then to give us a sense of how much that would actually entail, both cost and time, whether it would be in-house or not, so that we can really make a decision about this, having full information, which I don't think we have right now. And if there's no urgency to doing this immediately, I'd really rather have that time. So that was
So this is an amendment. Is there a second? Hearing no second. The Commissioner Ulmer?
Oh, I'm sorry. You should probably finish saying what happens with that. I thought that was a different kind of amendment.
fails miserably.
I was going to move on to the resolution as proposed, but if there's an additional amendment,
Yeah,
Commissioner Oliver, then Commissioner
I
McPherson.
share Commissioner Naker's. I think I'm not going to try to rewrite it. I understand her kind of proposing a scoping study. I would just amend it by deleting that second paragraph, the paragraph that comes after the bullets, because my concern about that is that some of those topics kind of beg outside consultants, where I think if we just leave it as, look at the starter line, compare it to enhanced bus service, think about the three things in bullets, I feel comfortable that we can handle it in-house and could kind of float along until some of these other studies are done. It still signifies our desire, our intent that the 7th Street corridor is the one we want to work on first without really committing us to too much more. So the amendment would just be getting rid of that paragraph that starts, this next study will include.
Is everybody clear on that amendment? Is there a second for that amendment? Hearing none. Commissioner McKaiser?
Yeah, this is more of just a general comment. My thought process on this is when you're looking at a corridor businesses won't be there. I mean, you know, for the most part. I mean, so what we're talking about is like zeroing out buildings and the streetscape. And I think that's really the bigger issue for me, you know, in doing this. I think that it'd be very clear on the next study whether or not that there's community or political support for this. And for me, honestly, the jury's still out. I mean, I see what's going on University Avenue. I see a lot of development that's concentrated in on an income level. And we say that and obviously we need that as a community, but I mean, we're concentrating, you know, certain types of development in these corridors. And I think that, you know, the further study is gonna hopefully, you know, show all of these factors, and it'd be very clear to me, I think, whether or not there's support with this in the community. So my thought process is, we're gonna know without a shadow of a doubt what the community wants, and if there's political support for this after the next study, should the next study, you know, uncover all this information.
Okay, any further discussion? Commissioner Underwood.
Madam Chair, thank you. I agree with Commissioner Whitehouse's comments just now, and I know I'm brand new to this, and I told myself I wasn't going to say anything.
None of us were able
But there is, and I am, and as a neighbor, I have done my best to follow this issue, and I know there are a lot of questions, and Commissioner Whitehouse just pointed those questions. They deserve to be answered, and we need to hold the team accountable to getting those answers, which I feel this resolution does. But what I can share, being new to the Planning Commission, but something I do know is that we know that there's a lot of other work happening by other organizations right on this exact issue. And we also know that the one organization that makes the city of St. Paul its #1 priority is the city of St. Paul. And so it's critical that we have an active seat at that table, and that we be asking the questions that we want to ask, and you know, and believing in the answers that we find, and then working with those other entities to make the right decision. So for that, I'm going to support it.
Okay, any further comment? If not, the resolution's on the table as recommended by the Transportation Committee. All in favor, please raise your hand. Opposed? The resolution passes.
For the record, how many people in this room support streetcars on?
Excuse me, sir,
Sorry, but-
you're interrupting the planning commission. Please, you know better than this.
Yeah, that
No, I
can
don't.
be done.
You should. You've been here
Plenty
enough.
of opportunity later to get more public input.
No hands. Who supports this? Put up your hand.
There'll be a hearing at the City Council on this shortly, and I urge you to take your testimony to that venue at that time. Communications Committee.
No, before this, I was, you know, the opportunity of the